How's everyone doing this morning? Hope you're doing well. We're just hanging out today. Some Q&A. My favorite days. Some Q&A days. Try to get some work done. How's everyone doing this week? Hello, hello. What's going on? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Himanshu, hello. Coke Zero Poppy, nice username. Any UF teachers you remember? Oh man. I don't remember the guy's name at this point. I have to go look. Let me see if I remember. I think it was Chem. Let's see, 3218. It is. Let's see. So my bioorganic chemistry professor was phenomenal. He was Dayrup, is that his name? James Dayrup? Let's see. Googling away. That is him. James Dayrup. So is he still alive? That'd be amazing. He's a professor emeritus. He's listed on the website still. So Professor Dayrup, he was he did 3218. It was 2 semesters, accelerated organic chemistry and biochemistry together. 2 semesters instead of 3. And he was phenomenal. And I only took the course because of him. And we built a relationship, and I would go to him before the semester started, before registration opened, and would give him my schedule, and he would register me for all the classes that I needed. That's awesome. Good trip down memory lane. Did I go to UF? Yes, I did, as it says right there, UF undergrad. People on YouTube, I have a TikTok over here as well. Is having clinical and non-clinical volunteering better than just one? You need non-clinical volunteering, subjectively, right? I know schools that have minimum requirements, not public, unfortunately. So I won't state who those schools are. It's because I just know from behind the scenes. But yeah, you need clinical experience, can be paid or unpaid. University of Central Florida has stated they not prefer, but they do put some weight into volunteer clinical. So it just depends. 4th time MCAT, 519. Congrats. 4th time's the charm. Does it hurt? Potentially. At the end of the day, you crushed it. So I wouldn't worry about the 4th time. Emory specifically states on their website that any student who takes it more than 3 times, it's considered non-competitive. I do think they have some language on their website that says if you've taken it more than 4 times and you've scored at their average, that they'll potentially look at you a little bit differently. So great job. I have 13 years of experience in psych as a tech. Should I change it up and become an EMT? I don't think you have to. I would ask what you do as a tech in psych and what that specifically looks like. Here, Muzz, let's go look at the Emory website. So I'm going to pull up Emory right now. Emory Medical School. Let's see if they have it on their website. MCAT. Yeah, so here, if you have taken the MCAT more than 3 times, you are not eligible to receive the Emory supplemental application. Yep, there you go. That's right on their website. I could have sworn they had some more hedging language in there previously, but that's pretty straight up. So I like it. They scream. I respond to site codes, meds, give emergency meds, other codes. Yeah, awesome. Keep doing it. It's more, more than 3 times, not 3 plus. Yeah. If you have taken the MCAT more than 3 times, that's Emory language. And I love it, right? They're very explicit. You may not agree with that rule, but I like the fact that they are public with that rule. They have their rules. Arlo, I'm a Canadian applying across Canada this cycle, 525, 4.0. If I don't get in, I will apply to US. Do you have any tips on getting shadowing experience in US as a Canadian? Yeah, come down and visit friends. Reach out and just come visit, like plan a couple weeks to come visit and contact as many people as possible. Definitely. I just took it for the first time. Truly hope it's the last. I'm right there with you. I will pray for you. Thoughts on military med? I've heard different perspectives in terms of long-term wages. Yeah, that's one of the biggest arguments of going into military medicine is the wages just aren't competitive with the civilian sector. But that's not why people go into the military. So I don't think if you're trying to decide salary based on going into the military or not, you're already like, I'm already going to tell you, don't go to the military. You're already thinking about it wrong. Meredith, at what point in the cycle should you start preparing for a reapplication? My MCAT will expire after the cycle, so I need to retake. Oh no. No interview invite so far. So it's still pretty early. Meredith, I would ask, what do you think is your weakness? Here's my stance, right? When you submit your application, you should immediately start thinking about reapplying and critically thinking about what could be wrong with my application that would prevent me from getting into medical school. And let me start working on that. You should be thinking about that now so that when that next application cycle rolls around, you are immediately ready to reapply because you've been working on that weakness throughout. Now, if your weakness is the MCAT score, you know what you need to do. So, yeah, got to go retake that MCAT. Braden, I'm not very interested in research. I wonder how having 0 research experiences will impact my chances at DO compared to MD. I'm not worried about research. Go explore some if you can. Research to me is one of the most overrated parts of the application. So, how do med schools view online science classes with lab? I know they accept them. Some don't. So you just have to go and look at every school and see if they accept it, they accept it. If they don't, they don't. I need to improve my transcripts. I do a post-bac or master's. At the end of the day, what we have seen generally is that undergrad classes are more impactful. So that's what I would potentially explore. What would schools think about my tattoos? I have 2 sleeves and a neck tattoo. The neck tattoo is going to be a little bit harder. It depends, like how high up on the neck is it? Medicine is still pretty conservative when it comes to dress and attire and all of that kind of stuff. I have several tattoos. The one that's most obvious is I have one that you can see when I'm wearing, like when I was wearing a scrub top back in the day. It was never a problem. It really it depends on the school. Every school is going to have their kind of code of conduct that will potentially lay out hairstyles, hair colors, visible tattoos, all of that kind of stuff. I think you are who you are, and you apply to medical school and let it be. What should I major in? Whatever you want. Whatever you want. As long as you get your prereqs in, you're good. I have a 3.0 cumulative 385 science. How do outcomes view that? 399 postbac, 74 credits. Fantastic. They'll view it as a student who, obviously you are a non-science major at some point, because that's where your cumulative is lower, but then you crushed it with your science GPA. My assumption is, if I were reading that, my assumption would be you didn't know what you wanted to be when you were starting off in college, and then you figured out you wanted to go to medical school, and then you crushed it. Now you had a goal in mind. So apply. You're awesome. Great job. Planning on 3rd MCAT attempt for the next cycle. Last one was 507. Would a tutor be worth it? I'm biased. We have a tutoring service now. We brought on Petros, who was at Kaplan for 26 years running their pre-med and MCAT stuff. We have a team now of 17 tutors, I think. So we're crushing it. We're going to launch a course here pretty soon. Very different than anyone else. Again, kind of my philosophy of trying to disrupt all of these big people and make this process easier and more affordable for everyone. But one-on-one tutoring obviously is going to be the pricier thing. I would, if you go under a website, you can schedule an MCAT consult. I would go and ask just to see. Just got into Yale Med. Congrats. As a non-trad applicant working full-time in a non-healthcare role, what are some good options for accumulating PCE, HCE hours? So it's interesting you use that language, Bradley. That's PA language. I'm not sure if you're pre-PA. Let me know if you're pre-med or pre-PA, because those are pre-PA. That's pre-PA language. And then I'll answer based on that, Bradley. I'm an M3. I wish there were more direct high school and med school programs. Save time and money. M8, it's interesting. I actually don't like those programs. I think it stresses students out. We get parents of middle schoolers reaching out to us going, okay, like my kid wants to go to medical school, be a doctor. What do they need to start doing? And I'm like, nothing. Let them be a kid. Let them explore life. So I like the process that we have now, where you go to college and you just explore your life. You grow up and learn to be a human. And if at the end of the day you still want to go to medical school, then you apply to medical school. Bradley, pre-PA. That's what I was wondering. I'm like, wait a minute. I still have a journey to go with some class prereqs that are two that are needed for both med and PA school. I have a little time thinking through though. So I'm not a pre-PA expert. Right. We have the PA platform as our website as well, and our resources. PCE and HCE. I don't know specifically like what what is required there. Our tool mapped over here lets you filter PA schools based on like how many hours are required, at least if they have them. At the end of the day, like HCE is working the front desk at a clinic, I think, and PCE is the more direct medical assistant type stuff. So I'm not going to give you super specifics because, again, there's some nuances there that even are confusing to me. How do you express interest, passion, in a specialty without overdoing it? Isabella, if you're talking about your personal statement on your application, is that what you're talking about? I would say you don't express interest in a specialty. Your activities are going to show that anyway. The goal of medical school applications and the personal statement is, why do you want to be a doctor, not why do you want to be a specific specialist. 75% of students, the last data points that I've seen, 75% of students change their mind. So I wouldn't focus on that. Other countries have it, so there's a direct pipeline. Yeah, we are one of the few countries where you go high school to college, then to medical school. Australia is actually changing to our system, which is interesting. Most of the other countries out there, you go straight from high school, you take a test. Are you good enough? You go to med school. The problem with our system and that process is our healthcare system is so screwed up, and the debt that's accumulated to go to medical school in our system, I want students to come into this much more with much more developed frontal lobes to make sure they're making the right decision. Hey, Dr. Gray, I just want to say that I met with 3 of your advisors 2 years ago, followed their advice, and now I'm in my first year. On paper, I shouldn't have been accepted, but the advice they give me really made me stand out. Congrats. That's fantastic. Is the 9 years I've worked as an EMT and paramedic better than research? I wouldn't say it's better than research. But it's clinical experience, which you need to get into medical school. I work for a medical school, DO, not MD, in finance, $78,000 a year for 4 years. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's atrocious. Do state medical schools usually have preference for in-state candidates? Typically, not always. Should I add in some research? Ideally, you can add in some. How many post-bac credits do you think is enough to establish a trend? It really depends on your specific situation. User 636168170859. Really depends on your specific situation. What exactly do you need? Robert, hey, Dr. Gray, tell me about yourself. Should I mention medicine at all? I wouldn't at this point. If any of you have read my interview book, which on TikTok doesn't show up because of the green screen. I don't know why. There it goes. Oh, look at that. My interview book. In this, for Tell Me About Yourself, I do talk about, it's dusty. I do talk about adding in why medicine to Tell Me About Yourself. After I wrote the book, I stopped teaching it because students weren't very good at it. So no, you don't need to. Empress Judah, thank you for the conference last weekend. It was a godsend. Thank you for that. That's fantastic. I'm glad it was useful for you. For those who don't know, Empress Judah is talking about MappedCon. It's our pre-health conference that we did last weekend. Still available to go watch all the replays. If you go to mappedcon.com, you can register. Randy, how far are we into interview invites for the cycle? Also, thank you for all the support for Premeds. You're welcome. It's September 19th. Interview invites are still flowing. It is still relatively early. Also wanted to mention I have 5 A's, all USMD programs. Couldn't recommend you more. Fantastic. That's phenomenal. Is 3.0 too low for any med school in this country? Should I do a post-bac program to increase my GPA? Sonny, without knowing your individual data points, I'm not sure. It sounds like you already know about post-bac programs to increase your GPA. I'm less worried about your GPA and more worried about the trend when you're that low. So my question would be, if you have a 3.0, let's assume all things are equal, right? And you've graduated undergrad already. You did 4 years. You did 30 credits every year. You had a 2.0 freshman year, a 2.0 sophomore year, and you had a 4.0 junior year and a 4.0 senior year. That's a 3.0 if all of your numbers are equal. That's a phenomenal upward trend. 60 credits at a 4.0. You may not have to do a post-bac because you have proven yourself already. So I think it just depends. At the end of the day, exactly what those data points are. I'm a volunteer at a hospital. What other volunteer experiences would help me stand out? I encourage you to not think about all of your activities as standing out or not. It's all been done before. You're not the first person to volunteer at a hospital. You're not the first person to volunteer wherever it might be, right? So nothing's going to help you stand out. Ultimately, it's how the experience impacts you, how you impact the experience, how you write about those experiences, and write about that reflection, and then how you talk about them in interviews. It's the story that comes from it. It's not just the thing that stands out. I first authored 2020 policy pieces cited by the UN and the WHO. Do those count as research publications? Yeah, potentially. Sounds good. Any thoughts of expanding your advice and videos to residency apps? Robert, you mean like the Med School Years podcast that just released episode 13 yesterday? Yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it, my friend. So yeah, go check it out. Do you have any advice for early assurance programs for medical school? Specifically about what, right? There are several of them, many of them. FlexMed is probably one of the more popular ones. They're great. Apply. I should be studying OChem right now. I guess not the worst thing to procrastinate with. Yes. Go study OChem. Don't use me. Don't use me as an excuse to get a bad grade. Don't. I'm terrified I won't get into med school. I'm nearing 30 and I'm worried on that get a good MCAT score. At the end of the day, it's you, right? The MCAT is a test, but if you put in the work, you just got to put in the work. You got to figure it out. Don't build the MCAT up to be some unslayable beast. I was just interviewing a student yesterday for the Premed Years podcast, and everything sounded fantastic. She went to school and she was at Penn and doing all this neuroscience. And then she was like, and the MCAT was my biggest struggle. I'm like, oh, so you do have a weakness. You do have some kryptonite. So we talked about the MCAT. That'll be a good one coming out in a couple weeks. That was with Julia, who's on TikTok and Instagram and everything. You can check her out. Does athletic training and PT count as clinical experience? It does. It's not the best because it's not like true medicine. Inpatient PT, I think, is better than outpatient PT. Yeah. Why do you think a lot of students with a high GPA struggle with the MCAT? Because they don't give it enough respect. The MCAT is a very different test compared to the tests that they're taking in school where they're getting good GPA. So students with really high GPAs have figured out how to study the material, learn the material, cram probably the material into their head, and then just spit it back out for their tests in college. The MCAT does not reward you for knowing the information. You have to be able to apply it and think about it critically. Apply to 31 MDs, 385, 510, 123 cars. I have good ECs. I think you'll be okay. You'll get some action there. I know students getting into MD schools with 121 in the car section. So will some schools screen you out? Yeah, potentially. Let's see. Going to Toro Dental right now. Any advice for dental student? No? Kick butt. If you're in dental school already, go kick butt. Learn as much as you can. Take care of your patients. What schools would a 3-5B non-competitive for? There are no lists like that where you can put in your grades, put in an MCAT score, and then have a magical list. How significant is a clinical research associate position compared to an EMT or medical assistant in terms of clinical experience? There's no right answer to that. I think it depends on exactly what are you doing. As a clinical research associate, what exactly are you doing? The title doesn't tell me anything. What are your thoughts about applying to new schools like UCOM? That's pre-accreditation and online only anatomy lab. UCOM. What's UCOM? Is there another new school I don't know about? UCOM. Are you talking about OCOM? UCOM. Yeah. I don't know about any UCOMs. What school are you talking about? Would observing a parent at a checkup count as shadowing? I wouldn't count that, no. It might be OCOM, Orlando. I didn't know they were online only anatomy lab. I'm assuming you mean virtual, like it's just a virtual anatomy lab, not necessarily online only. They don't have cadavers. I'm old school. I think cadaver anatomy is important. I don't think the data supports that. A lot of schools are moving to kind of plastinated models and other technology for anatomy. I think there's nothing that can replace cutting into a real body and looking at anatomy and feeling anatomy. It's messy, it's sloppy, it's probably not the best actual learning experience, but it's the experience itself that I think it's huge. The pre-accreditation status to me is a non-issue. That's just the process here in the States. New medical schools that are new, that aren't associated with another campus. For example, Burrell just opened a branch campus in what's that town called? Whatever. So right around Orlando. I can't think of the town name, which is funny because I have a friend from there. Um, they got their full accreditation and are eligible for FAFSA almost immediately because they just opened a branch campus based off of their original institution's accreditation. OCOM, new medical school, no no affiliation with other campuses. The accreditation process in this country is they get their preliminary or pre-accreditation status, and then right as the first class is graduating, the accrediting body comes back in, looks at everything, and then typically says, great, you're fully accredited, not a problem. So I don't have any issues with that. A first semester undergrad, 6 years out of high school, just got a D in my first BMS exam. Didn't take it seriously enough, upped my studying to 11 hours per week, including going to mentoring sessions, understanding material much better now, but the class average was a D. You got a D plus on the exam. What's your question? You got a question? Just keep rocking. Hopefully you can bring it up. How common is it for students to have an X factor in their personal statement, like surviving cancer? I wouldn't say it's common, right? I don't want you all to go get cancer so you can write about some cool story on your application. Like, don't go do something silly. I think a lot of people use that as an excuse of like, well, I don't have a sad sob story to write about on my personal statement. Like, no, don't do that. I didn't sign up for cancer. Good. Don't sign up for cancer. Knock on wood. Like, no cancer, please. Interview advice for MMI through Kira. MMIs for me are easy. You just treat it like real life. Kira, for those who don't know, it's just an asynchronous interview platform. Read the prompt, understand the prompt, think out loud. The MMI for me, it's just thinking out loud through the process. What is general minimum section scores to not get screened out for MD schools? I would say 124 potentially, and I just say that because Emory has some language on theirs that 124. Although I was just looking at their website because we were looking together. Yes, they must have a 124 or higher in each section. Ain't seen Dr. Gray in a while. Loved your videos in undergrad. I'm an anesthesia resident now. Awesome, Guardian Spirit. Fantastic. I'm gonna screenshot that. Thanks for making me feel old, my friends. I hope you're crushing. How bad is withdrawing from a non-prereq course for your application? Withdrawals are fine. Tyler Cochran. Cochran's not super popular name. I was friends with a Todd Cochran who recently passed a couple weeks ago, unexpectedly. Hope he wasn't related to you. How late is too late to send your secondaries in the cycle? How many schools should you apply to? How many schools you should apply to is just super subjective. At the end of the day, it's time and money. The average is, I think, 19 now for MD schools, and then 9 for DO schools. I'm an ED applicant, and the school started sending A's. Should I be worried if I have not gotten it? I would start to be concerned. You only have another week or so until you'll find out, right? For early decision, they have to let you know by the end of September. So yeah, fingers crossed. Good luck. How does admissions work for post-bac programs? What are they judging by if everyone has similar GPA? I'm not sure I understand your question. Training for your next marathon. I'll join you. No, I've never run a marathon. I've run a couple halves. I do not enjoy them. But I walk almost all day, every day on meetings and stuff. Unless I'm recording podcasts or anything, I'm in my garage just walking. What are the best strategies to get into medical school? Have good grades, understand why you want to be a doctor through clinical experience and shadowing, be a good human being, go get some non-clinical volunteering, write some good essays, go enjoy life. Just received 2 interview invites. What are chances of getting an A? I don't know. There's no like formula. If you got an interview invite, then your chance of getting in is X, Y, or Z. Every school has different processes. Feels like some schools' interviews don't really get to know you well. How much does that matter in the end? I think it matters a lot. I'd be interested to know why you think some schools don't get to know you well. 339 undergrad, too low for DO. My undergrad was in the UK. Graduated top of my class. The law bike, I would actually look into a lot of medical schools in this country, if not most, don't accept international grades. And so you might have to take at least your prereqs here. I would go and explore. 339 undergrad, I can't translate that. Is there any upward trend in there? There's lots of other questions. Advice for pre-dental. It's all the same. Pre-dental, pre-med, pre-vet, it's all the same. Get good enough grades. Go get your shadowing and clinical experience. Write your essays well to show that you want to be a dentist and how your life has led you here. We work with pre-dental students. It's not necessarily something we advertise. We just get people reaching out and asking. Thanks, doing prereqs here. Awesome. 4.0 final year. Perfect. Yeah, I'm not concerned then. Education isn't important. Execution on quick money schemes is what creates wealth. Yes, exactly right, Brandon. If I've done a lot of impressive policy work, how do I avoid seeming not interested in medicine? Yeah, Ronald, I think it's a good question. I think at the end of the day, you're allowed to be who you are. You're allowed to have your experiences. You're allowed to have your interests and passions outside of medicine, tangential to medicine. At the end of the day, you have to, on your application, have the experiences that prove that you know what you're getting yourself into with medical school. Your personal statement should focus on why you want to be a physician, not why you want to be involved in policy. So you can have all of the policy work that you want. If you also don't have enough experiences that prove that you want to be a physician, and your stories and your personal statement, secondaries where appropriate, don't prove that you want to be a physician, it's not going to matter. Back to update. I applied to 50 plus schools, interview invites to UCLA, Dartmouth, now FIU, sending good vibes to my colleagues. Love it. Ben, how do I express the fact that I want to be a doctor? Because I am fascinated with surgery and the human body in my personal statement. Don't applicants usually have a specific moments where they realize, yeah, so fascination with surgery and the human body is not a good reason to say you want to be a doctor. It's going to be working on, in my personal statement book, which I don't have one nearby, it's just the Premed Playbook Guide to the Medical School personal statement. Go Gators! Let me take a sip of my drink. Go Gators. How does this not get filtered out with the green screen? But my book does. Like, this is super blue and green. But then my book is like I don't understand. Stupid TikTok filter. So the personal statement, right? I talk about it again in my book, is the seed. What was the first exposure to healthcare that you had that led you to realize that there was this whole career out there of medicine, of being a physician? And not necessarily being a physician, you potentially could have another starting point. But then you, once you have your seed, then you water that seed. What clinical experiences did you have to help support your decision on going to medical school, being a physician? And if your personal statement is all, I want to cut people, that's not going to work. Generally, my advice, never say never. Heidi, I'm applying HPSP. I have received an acceptance to medical school. Can I apply now for HPSP? Then switch it to another school if I get accepted to a different school I prefer. Yes. So once for the HPSP, you can't technically apply to HPSP until you have an acceptance. Getting HPSP is not specifically tied to that school. It's just saying I got into a school. So you should be good. Go talk to your recruiter and go sign up for the Air Force. Non-trad prior USMC officer, M2 at Georgetown now. Use your book, watched all your videos. Fantastic. I love it. Does med school get concerned about a few W's? No. No. Seems like interviews are about winning over just one interviewer. Is that true? Is there a lot more to it? I wouldn't say that at all. Interviews are about connecting with another human being, not winning over someone. Which book is best for non-trad starting from scratch? Probably my application process book, because it covers everything. The personal statement and interview books are like the specific how to write your personal statement, how to prepare for interviews. So much later. All right, friends, I got to run to some meetings. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'll see you later.